السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وآمل أنكم جميعا بخير. Okay, today we'll talk about the development of the renal system. So before we start the actual class on the development of the renal system, I want to remind you of certain things you have studied in the first year. You do know that at during the development at the blastocyst stage, what you call present the pluripotent stem cell. And that pluripotent stem cell has the ability to give rise to the whole body. Now, from that point onward, there would be further specialization, that is formation of multipotent cell, unipotent cell, and monopotent cell that eventually give rise to a specific type of cell. Regardless, from these multipotent stem cells arise what you call the basic tissues. And the basic tissues, as you know, they arise from the germ layers, the ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. And those germ layers will give the basic tissue. All right, the second aspect which I want to remind you is that to appreciate the development, you have to study what you call the histology. Now, the histology of the renal system, already I have explained that in the previous class. So we have the kidney, where we have the glomerulus, in addition to the renal tubules. And then we have what you call the, let me use this slide. All right, so we have the renal corpuscles and the renal tubules, starting from the proximal, moving into the loop of Henle, distal, collecting ducts, and then to the ductal system or the conducting ducts, starting from minor calyces, major calyces, and then the pelvis, ureter, urinary bladder, and the urethra. Now, to understand the development, you have to start to go backward from the functional point, that is from the glomerulus, backward into the renal tubule, into the collecting ducts, into the conductive ducts like the minor calyces, major calyces, pelvis, ureter, etc. All right. Now, the urinary system, the kidneys and the ureter, they actually develop from the intermediate mesoderm. بينما the bladder and the urethra, they develop from the urogenital sinus. Now, you will see that actually both the renal system as well as the reproductive system, they develop hand in hand. Just like any other organs, all organs begin to develop during the, starting from the 4th week of intrauterine life and continue so. So all organs begin to develop simultaneously, but some of them are closely related to each other. For example, the renal and the reproductive system. Now, the urinary bladder, as I said, and genital system, they are very much closely associated. Both of them develop from the intermediate mesoderm, and that is from the 7th to 28th somites. The somites اللي هم المضغة التي ذكرت في القرآن، نتذكر في هذا الكلام. إذا من 7 ل 28 somite level، هذه الستم cells اللي موجودين هناك، they give rise to the both urinary and the reproductive system. Now, they are present اللي هو الانترميديت mesoderm. إذا رجعنا لوين؟ the germ layer. إذا وين شو موجود هناك؟ الجيم layer اللي هي الميسودرم. All right. They are present on either side of the aorta during the development. So the urogenital ridge breaks into two components. The nervogenic cord اللي هو من الميسودام اللي موجود ما بين 7 ل 14 سومايت، وهذا بيعطيني الرينال سيستم، بينما البقيه يعني من 14 من 15 ل 28 اللي هم موجودين على الجونايدال ريج بيعطوني الجينيتال سيستم. All right, the beginning of the development of the renal system, the first thing to appear that is during the 4th week of intrauterine life, and it becomes obvious and apparent during the 7th week. اللي هي the development of the cloaca. What is this cloaca? To begin with, there arise a membranous sac, we call it allantois. It is a diverticulum. In lower animals, it is has good respiratory function. In a human, it acts like a reservoir of urine and for blood production. And then it undergoes degeneration. And of course, after the development of the placenta will take place. And the remnant of that will be the median umbilical ligament that is present at the neck of the bladder and the umbilicus. All right. Now, the cloaca, as I said, during the 3rd, 4th week of pregnancy, it ends up as a blind sac, and that is the actual Latin name, blind end cloaca. And the allantois and mesonephric ducts open into the cloaca. Then it acts like a sewer or a cleanage. Right. Now, you will come to see during the development of different organs the arise of some type of tissues, and then this tissue will undergo degeneration to give rise to a new type of tissue. So this is highly complex molecular aspect. So it put the ground for the future component to form. وهذا اللي راح نشوفه في الديفلوبمنت تاعت الكدني. بالبدايه بيظهر عندي الميسونيفريك داكت، ومن ثم الميسنكايمال، ومن ثم الفاينل tissue that give rise to the renal system. All right. Now, during this cloacal development, there will be a urorectal septum. Now, urorectal septum, it divides between the lower portion of the gastrointestinal system, that is the rectal region, and the reproductive system. So actually, it gives two parts. The ventral part, which is the urogenital sinus, as I said, from this arise the reproductive system. And the dorsal part, from what this rise, what you call the rectum and the anal canal. All right, so what happened is at this stage, after the formation of the cloaca, there will be division of the cloaca. Division, there will be a septum that divides it into two portions. As I said, the ventral and the dorsal, from which arise the lower portion of the gut, that is the rectum and the anal canal, and the ventral part, from which arise the urogenital sinus, from which arise the reproductive as well as the renal system. In the renal system, as I said, there are a subsets of different types of tissues that arise, undergo degenerative changes, and then they are replaced by a new tissue. For example, there arise what you call the pronephrons, that is the first tissue to arise. Then after that, the mesonephron, and then after that, it's going to be replaced by the permanent one, which is metanephros. الميتانيفروس هو from which actually the renal system arises. All right, even the renal system or the kidney, they develop from their pronephron. طبعا الميسونephrons والmetanephrons, they undergo degenerative changes, and from that arise two ducts at the level of the lower lumbar and sacral region. Now, The very first indication of the development of the renal system is the development of the uteric bud, البد أو البرعم ما يسمى. This arises from mesonephric duct and forms the ureter and then the renal pelvis, major calyces, minor calyces and collecting duct. إذا نحن بنحكي reverse wide مثل ما حكيت لكم في البداية. وهذول الأجزاء اللي هم اليوريتر, الرينال pelvis, الميجر calyces, المينor calyces and collecting duct, they arise from a different origin. بقية الرينال tubule من الديستال إلى هنلي إلى البروكسيمال إلى الجلوميرولس, they arise from another origin, and both of them have to meet together. If they don't meet together, that result in failure of development of the kidney, or what you call renal agenesis. Okay, I will explain these figures in a while. All right. Even the ureteric bud, that's the first to arise, and the metanephric mesenchyme. إذا في عندنا جزئين اللي هم ما يسمى اليوريتريك باد والميتانيفريك mesenchyme. اليوريتريك باد مثل ما حكيت it give rise to the conductive duct, ureter, renal pelvis, major calyces, minor calyces, and collecting duct. الميتانيفريك mesenchyme أو الكاب, that will give rise to the glomerulus and the of course the other renal tubule. إذن اليوريتريك bud arises from the mesonephric duct near the cloaca, and this duct will grow longer, and then how it's going to be, it's going to branch. So actually, after formation of the ureter, and before it as it enters the kidney, and here I'm going to integrate some congenital deformity. So if the ureter bud start to branch or to form the major calyces, so if that occur before it enters the substance of the kidney, then that will give us a bifid ureter, متشعب. All right. Then, as it enters, it will undergo branching pattern. The first four generation will give the major calyces. Two other generation will form the minor calyces, and then it will further generate further and more to give us what you call the collecting. And that is explained in this diagram. إذا في عندي اليوريتريك بد وعندي الميتانيفريك كاب باللون الأحمر. إذا باللون الأخضر اللي هي اليوريتريك بد. اليوريتريك bud, as you can see here, so it grows in length to form the ureter, then it forms the renal pelvis, then start to branch. The first generation of branches will give me the major calyces. The second major generation will give me the minor calyces. And the third major branching pattern will give me the collecting ducts. From this الكاب باللون الأحمر بيطلع عندي other renal tubules and the glomerulus. Okay, so that is explained further in these diagrams, the branching pattern of the ureteric bud to form the ureter and to form the other collecting ductal system, again in this diagram. All right, now in this diagram, we come to the cap, or what do you call it, the metanephric cap. What is this? هي عبارة عن aggregation of mesenchymal cells. Mesenchymal cells يعني mesenchyme يعني multipotent type of stem cell. They have the potential to give rise to epithelial tissue that line the blood vessels, the connective tissue that is present over there, and the smooth muscle. All those components form the blood vessel. Then it forms the basement membrane and polarization of the cell, and then finally what you call the functional nephron. Now, during the development, as the body grows, the kidney, as I said, it develops in the abdomen, and along with that, we have the development of the lower portion of the gut or the gastrointestinal system, as I said before, the rectum and the anal canal. So it will ascend. If the kidney does not ascend and remain down there, it will be termed as a pelvic kidney. And this is one of the congenital deformities. Another deformity or of the development anomalies is that the presence of a horseshoe type of kidney. And this is because we have the development of the right kidney and the left kidney from the same origin. Sometimes during the early stages, the right and left kidney develop with very close proximity. So if they do not segregate or divide, then they are combined together and form this shape of kidney, horseshoe shaped kidney. As I said before, from the other anomaly, you have the double ureter, as you can see in this diagram, and that occur, as I said, the urethric bud actually begin to branch before it enters the substantia of the kidney. Even some of the anomalies, renal agenesis, as I said, if the two parts of the conducting portion of the renal system and the nephron, they come from different origin. If they do not meet together or fuse together, that results in what you call renal agenesis. Some of the other polycystic kidney, polycystic kidney, it is a genetic disorder. I'm not going to go in that detail. Duplication of the ureter that could occur. Pelvic kidney, as I said, if does not ascend, horseshoe kidney, if they do not separate during the development. The urinary bladder during the 4th to the 7th week, as I said, the cloaca divide, and it gives anorectal canal, a primitive urogenital sinus type. The bladder arises from the primitive urogenital sinus. And of course, it is initially continuous with the allantois, يعني اللي هو البريميتيف sac كذا اللي بيجمع ما يتبقى من الافرازات اليورين في developing fetus. الurogenital sinus again بالmale it gives rise to the membranous portion بالprostate. إذا المembranous part تاع اليوريثرا arise from the urogenital sinus. The spongy part comes from the phallic part or the urethral plate, which we will talk about when we talk about the development of the reproductive system. طبعا in comparison بحالة الhuman, the whole urethra, part of the vagina, arises from the pelvic part of the urogenital sinus. As I said, we explain that when we talk about the development of the reproductive system. من الابnormalities of the development of the urinary bladder اللي هي auricular fistula. Fistula يعني communication with another cavity or formation of a cyst or a sinus or extrophy of the bladder. لما بيكون البلادر مش مغطى بالanterior abdominal muscle بيكون ظاهر. Okay, so here is a summary of what I said in this diagram. The formation of the cloaca, division of the ventral and the posterior part, which will give rise to the anorectal portion or the primary urogenital sinus. From that arise what you call the reproductive system as well as parts of the renal system. وهذا يكفي لهذه المحاضرة. مع أمنياتي لكم بالتوفيق.